Hello guys, and welcome to a new DaVinci Resolve tutorial. In this tutorial we will make that awesome 3D text animation or 3D logo reveal in DaVinci Resolve 16. Before you start, I make DaVinci Resolve tutorials. If you like more videos like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. Now let's get back to DaVinci Resolve. I have divided this tutorial in two parts because it's gonna be a long tutorial, and here is the quick workflow for the first part of this tutorial. We will start by designing the front text layer, the middle text layer, and the back text layer, and in the end we add the background. We design all the materials and link them to their respective 3D objects. Okay, so now the real start. As you can see, I'm in a new DaVinci Resolve 16 project. I have gone ahead and added some pins. We will be using some textures for this tutorial. This is one texture. These are all of the layers for the second texture. This is the bump map, which will be using it for the background, and the reflection map. All these assets I have downloaded them from the internet. So this is the first texture. You can download it by clicking here. The second texture. This is the bump map. We just need the bump map here, so you will need to go to this drop down, select bump map, select 2048 the size, and hit download. This is our reflection map. I will provide with all of these links in the description below. Now I'm back to DaVinci Resolve. Before we continue, we need to do some arrangements. So go to the project settings. In the timeline frame rate, select 30. And also type 30 in the playback frame rate and hit save. Now in the root folder of the project, right click, new Fusion composition. Change the duration to 30 seconds. I will type text 3D animation here and hit create. Now our Fusion composition has been created. Drag it to the timeline, and immediately we go to the Fusion tab. In the Fusion tab, let me close the spline editor, we don't need it right now. Do some arrangements, right click, options, orthogonal pipes, arrange tools to grid, and also I will go to the Fusion menu, Fusion settings. In the frame format, just make sure you have selected a 16-bit float per channel so that we have a higher color depth. This will take much more computer power, but everything will look much better. So hit save. Now we can start with the first layer of the text. So first of all, I need to add a text 3D node to the node section, or you can do it by clicking here and drag it, or Control space, search for text 3D. Now I will rename this node to front layer, or the front text layer. Now I need to edit the settings. I will type in the style text I will type here this text. Then for the font I will select Montserrat. Make it bold. Let me just view it on the screen. This is our text. We need to change the size and the tracking, and also we will change the vertical anchor. So that the vertical anchor makes the text to be centered vertically. So the next set of settings are in the extrusion tab. Just expand it, and we need to change the extrusion depth, the bevel depth, and the bevel width. And just change the shading to shadows. So in this way we apply the default lighting and shadows of DaVinci Resolve to this viewer. And if I come closer, you can see that the bevel has been applied in both sides, front and back. I don't want this effect to be applied to the back side, so I can just click here, back, and it removes it. So now we have a flat back side but a beveled front side. And now we can continue with designing the material for this front layer. The default material for a text 3D node can be found in the shading tab. If you change the color, you can see that it changes it, but we want to design a more complicated material, more advanced. And anytime you want to replace the default material with another material, you need to add a replace material 3D node. Control space, replace material 3D, and add it. Let me move this to the left so that we have more space to work. Now we can start with a material design. Go to the media pool. We need to add the reflection map. Let me just rename this to a reflection map. And let me open the dual viewer so that we can see the reflection on the left screen by hitting number 1. Now this reflection is not enough. We want to combine some scratches and some other textures together. So let me go here at the texture one and bring this media. Make sure it's the base color.jpg. And rename it to texture 1. After that we will add the transform node, but let me show it on the right screen here. Control space and add a transform node. Let's go here and let's change the settings for the transform. It's gonna be 0.56, and in the edges we need to type mirror so that everything duplicates. And now to be able to combine two medias or two pictures together, we can use the merge node, or more advanced, we can use the channel booleans node. Select the second one. And this node allows to combine two medias, in our case two pictures, based on their channels, the red, green, blue and the alpha channels, by applying mathematical operations. The operations is here. Copy means that we copy everything from the foreground to the background. So we copy the red channel, the green, the blue and the alpha channel to the background. But in this case we are going to use the sign add operation. And if I connect it here and view it on the left screen, you can see that these two textures have been combined. I also want to change the resolution of this first texture, so I do that by adding a letterbox node. And if I hit Ctrl P to disable it and enable it, you can see the difference. So you can use the Ctrl P shortcut to enable or disable a node in the node section. Next, I also want to combine another texture to it, so basically we can use copy and paste all of these, bring it here. We will delete this texture node, we go to texture 2 and we need to bring the base color of this second texture. Connect it here, rename it to texture 2. We need to change a little bit the transform, so it's going to be 0.36, and we add the mirror. And on the left screen you can see what texture we are applied. Now let's connect the two channel boolean nodes together. But if I view this on the left, we don't get the result we want. To achieve the result we want, we need to change the operation to maximum. And now we have the final texture. We have combined three different medias into one. Now anytime we want to create a reflection map, we need to use a sphere map. So Control space, search for sphere map. Let me view it on the left viewer. Need to change the settings of the sphere map. Expand the rotation. Type -52.2. We are done with this. We go ahead and add the reflect node. Control space, reflect node. But here we need to change the input. Right click on this output and connect it to the reflection color material. Now we have the sphere map created. Next is we need to add a plane node. Control space plane to change the color of this reflect node. Delete this arrow. Right click here and connect it to the background material. Now let's edit the blend material. Let me view the blend on the right viewer. Change the color to black. Then we go to the specular and we change the color of the specular. And we change the intensity and the exponent. And we uncheck the shadows. Now we have the material we want. Next we need to add the bump map, which will give a lot of detail to our texture. So to add a bump map, go to the first texture and select this purple or this colored texture, bring it here. Let me rename it to bump map texture 1. Next I will add the transform node. Bring it up here, change the settings to 0.42 the size, and we also change the mirror. We view it on the right screen. Now to be able to apply a bump map to the reflect node, we need to create a bump map node. Control space bump map. Now there are two types of bump map. There is one that is grayscaled, it has only black and white colors, or we have this colored one which have more colors and it's more detailed. When we have this type of bump map, we will use the source image type to bump map. If we had the grayscale, then we would have used the height map, but I'm going with a bump map here, and as you can see, this is the bump map we are using. Right click on this output, connect it to the reflect node and connect it to the bump map texture node. Now this is the result. And finally we can connect it to our replace material, and let's see what we got. But I also do have to do some changes in the reflect node, I forgot to do those. So we need to change the glancing options. Basically we need to change the reflection. So go to the glancing strength, the face on strength and the fall off, and change the values to these ones. There you have it. Now we can see better the changes and the material we did before. And now pretty much we are done with the front layer. We need to go ahead and design the middle layer of the text. To do that, we will create an instance copy of our front layer. So Ctrl C, Ctrl Shift V to create an instance copy. If you see this green line, it means that this is an instance copy of this one. What it means is that this is basically a clone to this node. So everything we change here or here will be applied in both of them. If we want to change one setting independently from its original, then we need to de-instance it. So let me just rename it first. Let me show you what I mean by de-instancing. So here everything remains the same except the extrusion, bevel depth and bevel width. So to change those independently, we need to de-instance. So right click and hit de-instance. Right click here and let me change the extrusion to 0.06. And we also want to change the position of this middle layer. We see it on the back side and this on the left one. Let me see this on the right one and add some shading. And now if I go to the transform tab, we also need to de-instance the translate group. So this de-instance translate group will de-instance all of these settings in here in this group. And we need to add some values. So we need to move this back in the Z space. So for the Z value, we will type. And now we have positioned our middle layer. To be able to view these two layers together, we need to merge them. But before that, because we are going to change the material for this text as well, I will add a replace material 3D node. Bring it here. And now to connect them together, we need to add a merge 3D node. Control space merge 3D node. We'll type this text merge. Now bring this connected here and also this output to the text merge. And now if I type 2 to view it on the right side of the viewer, then we can see both of the text added together. Now to design the material for this middle layer, we need to add some more nodes. First of all, I will add a fast node. Let me view it on the right screen, the merge on the left viewer. Now we need to define the options for the fast noise. First of all, I want to animate this center X and Y of the noise so that it animates infinitely. To do that, we use an expression. So right click, expression, and type time divided by 270, and here type the same. So basically each frame, the X and Y position will be moved by this amount, the frame number divided by 270. Now if I play this, you can see that it moves diagonally. Next I will change the detail, the contrast and brightness. Then the scale, angle, seeth and the seeth rate. So the seed rate is what it defines fast noise to also be animated. So if I play it, it is static now, but if I change the seed rate, you can see that now the fast noise is also animated, the noise is animated. And I will also check this discontinuous checkbox so that we get this texture here. And next we need to go to the color tab, change the color. For the type we will use two colors. The first color is black, so we don't need to do anything there. And for the second color we will type this value. And this is good. Now we need to blur this texture a bit, so Control Space, add a blur node, connect it here, connect this to the blur, and change the settings of the blur. Type 3.1 in the blur size, and pretty much this is it. So to be able to combine this with the reflection we used before, we need to add a sphere map and a reflect node. We will use the same sphere map as here because we will use the same reflection map. Edit this up and bring this maybe here, and let me add a reflect map. And we will use the same sphere map as the material in the front layer. So right click here, connect it to the reflect color material. So now this is what we have so far. After that I will bring this blur here, blur node, right click it and connect it to the background material. And now we have the animated material with the reflection map applied to it. For the reflect we will leave the default settings, we don't need to change anything there. Finally we can connect this to the replace material so that the material is added. Watch on the left viewer to see what happens now. As you can see, the material has been added. If we play this, the material is also animated by default. This is all caused by that expression and the seed rate. But as you can see, it looks like the animation has been applied horizontally. We want to change it to be vertical so that it looks much better. To do that, go to the middle layer, go to the shading tab and just uncheck the use one material. And if I check it and uncheck it, you can see the difference in here. And now if I play, the texture is animated for the middle layer. And now we are also done with this part. Now we need to design the third or the back layer of the text. But let me just hold Alt to add a junction so that we can arrange everything better here. We can move this to the left and maybe move it a little bit down. And now we will also need to create the back layer. The back layer is very similar to the front layer, so we copy this one, Control Shift V to paste it, type back layer. And for the back layer, we will also need to de-instance the same properties as with the middle layer. So go to the extrusion depth, de-instance, bevel depth and bevel width. Now change the new settings. We can leave this to 0.03. For the bevel depth, we will type, and all the other settings remain the same. Now we can go to the transform tab and de-instance this translate group, and for the Z we will type -0.12509. And now to be able to view this on the screen, switch to single viewer, we will also go ahead and add a replace material node. And now we can connect this to this merge, and as you can see, the third text has been added, but it doesn't have a material defined. Since this back layer will be the same as the front layer, we will use basically the same material. To do that, we can just right click to drag from this output and connect it to this input, and now we have the back layer defined. And pretty much we are done with the text layers now. The final thing for this part of this tutorial is to design the background. To do that, I will need to add a shape 3D node, so drag it from here or Control Space Shape 3D node. We need to design this independently first, and then we will connect it together to this merge. We will leave this to the plane as a shape, then we change the size and the subdivisions. Let me switch to dual viewer and view this on the left viewer. Now we have a shape, a background. We also need to move this shape backwards a little bit, so go to the transform tab. In the Z position, type -0. Now let's merge this all together first. So I will create a new merge 3D node, rename it to text and PG, text and background. I will rename this to background and connect it here, and I will connect this here. Now if I view this on the right viewer and change it to shadows, we have the background and the text layers together. Now we need to design the material. Since we are going to use the same reflection map, I will bring this down here, and then we will add a blur node. Right click to drag and hit input. Now we have the same reflection map applied in two places for two materials. We will bring this like so. Let me edit the settings for the blur node. Okay, the blur size will be on the blend. Next, as always, we need to add a sphere map. Let me change the rotation. If I view it on the left viewer, this is what we have so far. Next, of course, we need to add a reflect node. Again, I need to delete this connection because we need to connect it to the reflect part of the reflect node. So right click here, select reflection color material. Now if I view it on the right side, this is what we have. Next, I need to edit the settings of the reflect node. So I will change the glancing strength, the face on strength, and the fall off. And the refractive index will be. Next we continue with the other part of the material. In this case I will use a pre-made or free shader that DaVinci Resolve gives us. Go to the effects library, templates, shaders, and then drag the cool metal. Double click to expand it. You don't have to do this, but I like to right click and ungroup it because I work better in this way. Now we need just to change this node. So let me view this on the left screen and this on the right screen. Now we need to change the settings of the word. First of all, we change the color. Next we go to the specularity or the specular tab. We need to change the color here too. And for the intensity we will type we will also have to change the transmittance. The color is black, but we change the alpha detail, the color detail, and the saturation. We need to connect this to the reflect node, right click here and connect it to the background color material. Now we have this material, and finally for this part of the material we will have to add a bump map. To add a bump map we will use the bump map here, bring it down, let me view it on the right screen, add the transform node. For the transform we will input these values for the size. And for the edges we type mirror, just see the changes. And filter method, I will use this lengths because it works best for this bump map. And after that we will need to add the bump map node, control space, bump map. Same as with the previous case, we need to change the source image type to bump map. And now we connect, right click here and we connect it to the bump map texture of the reflect node. And now if I delete this and reconnect it, just check on this screen, see the changes. Just give some details to this texture, and now I think we are pretty much done with this material. We just need to connect it to the background. For the shape 3D we don't need to use a replace material node. The replace material 3D node is only used to replace the material for the text 3D node. Here we can just connect it directly. Now if we view it, disable wireframing, this is the texture of our background node. This concludes the first part of this tutorial. In the second part we will add the final nodes, the lighting, we define the camera, the render, we will add some effect like chromatic aberration and light rays, and also we will add the animation. If you want to get notified about the next part when it is released, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. Hit a like if you like this video. If you have any questions about this part, just leave them in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and see you in part 2 of this tutorial.